Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to our brand new sub-series, because now we're on this thing of just starting random sub-series every week. We'll eventually go back and do more in the other sub-series. That's not a word. Either way.
Should we talk about how we got to deciding to do this?
Should I say what it is and then we say it, or we say how we got to it and then I announce the idea? Like, which way? Like, should I say what the sub-series is?
I don't know.
I can't even ask you guys real time because it doesn't matter what you say, because we will have decided by the time you listen to this episode.
Say what the sub-series is.
Okay, according to Joe, we are saying what the sub-series. Thank you, Joe. Everyone, thank you. Okay. So our sub-series is Neurodivergent People in History. Because I don't have a fancy soundboard like Susie, who I'm representing at the moment, that you can see on YouTube. Anyways, tell us, Stephenie, how did you get to this idea for this new sub-series for Growing on the Spectrum?
So, I was I'm going to Kenosha Pride. I have a booth. They just sent an email that said that they are going to do a theme this month. And the theme is, or this month.
Yeah.
They're gonna do a theme this year, and we're going to they're asking all the vendors to try to do something in the theme, and then there's prizes for the best booth thing. So I was thinking about what I wanted to do. The theme is Pride Through the Ages. And I did what I always do when I'm stuck, and I went to ChatGPT and asked for some ideas. Excuse me. Because sometimes I just need that little spark to get me going. And so explain this is what my school is. This is the theme of the school. I want to try to blend it pretty well together.
Right.
I literally just kind of info dump what I want into it, and then it's here's some ideas, and it gave me a list of 6 ideas. And one of them was because of sorry, I just got distracted by the picture on my vibe board.
Oh, that is a bulge-eyed little shaved face little thing.
It's one of those Mickeys.
Oh, 10 nose to toes except for the ears.
Yep.
Just leave the ears as long as possible. Y'all know that type.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Okay. So what was I talking about?
You're talking about how you got to this idea, how you just kind of info dumped into ChatGPT.
Yes. And one of the ideas that came out was to do something basically some sort of informative thing, but also fun thing about a person in history who was both neurodivergent and part of the alphabet mafia, because I cannot
or what we affectionately refer to as a pride person.
Yes.
But it's LGBTQIA+.
Yes.
But either way, alphabet mafia is my preferred
yes.
name.
I'm gonna go with the alphabet mafia because that's easier to say,
and it encompasses any
things.
Letters that could potentially be covered.
Yes.
Or added.
So alphabet mafia. Fuck. Oh, so then I was like, well, okay, so we could do some research. Then I was like, oh, I'll see if ChatGPT can find something for me.
Right.
And I had them actually, I asked ChatGPT for, a person that fit
those parameters, yeah.
Those parameters. And funnily enough, I found Alan Turing, the father of AI.
So I know that name has got to be ringing some bells in your head, and for good reason, because this guy, Alan Turing, had an accomplished, albeit short, life that changed the world for us in several ways. So I feel like for this sub-series, kind of the layout I was thinking is kind of we have 3 parts to our episodes now, is doing something like starting with academic achievements, the breakthroughs, kind of like his work, right? And then when we come back after break and to the second part, then we'll talk about personal life a bit more, maybe any sort of conflicts that came up. And then the third part's kind of open-ended, kind of what do we see to, like, how is he still relevant today? What could his life have been like? And this one will be especially for this guy, like, what could his life have been like if he had lived in this era and not the era he did? So we'll talk about all that, and I basically did a book report, and Stephenie's gonna try to make it sound not like a book report.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. Also, there's a movie about him which we didn't watch.
We did not watch. We should have prepped for this, but if something.
Well, I think it's actually better that we didn't watch it yet, because sometimes that can really.
It's not like. I'm sure
it's not exact.
100%.
Yeah. So I think maybe after
this episode, and then maybe next week's live stream. Or this week's. No,
it won't be until
not this week's live stream.
Next week's live stream.
Next week's live stream.
Yeah.
Anyways, you guys are getting to hear how our planning works. It works though.
It does the job.
But either way, if you guys are ready to learn about Alan Turing, I can launch right into it.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about like his young life too, and kind of. Anyways, we'll just get into it. So, his name was Alan Matheson Turing. He was born on June 23rd of 1912 in London. So we're actually also getting close to his birthday.
Oh wow!
But we'll talk about the other stuff later.
Yeah.
So his first schooling was at a primary school called St. Michael's from ages 6 to 9. And that's when he was first sort of officially, like his talents were first officially kind of recognized, because she's recorded to have called him a genius, saying she sees a lot of smart children, but that Alan was a genius. From 1922 to 1926, he was in Sussex at the Hazelhurst Preparatory School, and he went to Sherborne School in Dorset, starting at the age of 13. And this is where a lot of stuff happened here. For starters,
can I back up real quick?
Yeah.
First of all, I do want to say, we want to mention his neurodiversity.
Right.
He's thought to be autistic. Obviously, at that time,
it wasn't
really like there wasn't like a diagnosis necessarily, but there is a lot of evidence that points to him being autistic, and this, his genius that's the it seems like he's really good with numbers.
We'll talk.
And so like I think that's the what is it called? Savant.
Yeah.
So that's the savant the syndrome thing, part of it.
Yeah, where they're exceptionally skilled at, which granted he did. Ultimately, I think it all did kind of fall back to numbers, but he explored many fields, which is really cool, because I only knew about like
he's mostly called out as being a mathematician.
Yeah.
So I think everything he did had something to do with numbers. Yeah. Yes. So anyways, I just wanted to point out like those are things where you can see, okay, those are signs that he was,
and that's why I like pulled it out. And like this next part I really like. So the first day of the term of Sherborne School, which is where he spent a lot of he's in 13, he's spending his kind of formative teenage years. The first day of that term coincided with the general strike in Britain that happened in 1926. And I had to look this up, of course, because I don't know British history. But it was a 9-day strike meant to force the British government to prevent wage reductions and worsening conditions for coal miners. That part doesn't really pertain to him, but what it did, it meant a lot of the transport industry also went on strike. So this child at 13 years old rode his bike by himself for 60 miles to get to school on time. I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
And I had to put it out there because it's showing me
who really likes a person.
He likes school, man. Yes. And he didn't do that in one day. He stopped overnight at an inn, but still, like,
where were his fucking parents?
I didn't really care about the parents very much. I cared more about Turing.
Yes, I just like, Who lets, I mean, how old was he? 13?
Yeah,
Who
13.
lets their 13-year-old literally
Bike
do a
for
2-day bike trip to get to school?
I don't know, man. Things were different. All I remember is that his dad was a civil servant and his work took him to India frequently. I don't know. Either way, I didn't look up much of that because it's not who this is about. So we can just speculate. There's a lot of speculation too, but a lot of facts. Most of what I will tell you are facts.
We like facts.
So at the Sherborne School, he showed a natural inclination towards mathematics and science. However, it didn't earn a lot of respect from the teachers because back in that time, and especially like in London, they were very focused on the classics, not math and science, not like the STEM fields, but the classics means the study of classical antiquity, which is ancient Greek and Roman literature, archaeology, philosophy, mythology, that sort of thing. Like that's what they thought made a well-rounded person, not the things that can anyways, not math and science. They didn't think
funny though, like, because now we look at those kind of things as like
frou-frou, like
yeah,
fluff, and
but like
STEM is what you focus on.
Yeah, but like I don't know. I think it's all important personally.
Well, yeah.
I think we all need to learn a little bit of all of it.
I want to know everything, even though it's not.
I want to know all the things.
Know everything. That's really why I started taking Coursera courses, which are free college courses you can like audit.
Yeah.
I literally have one that's ancient Roman and Greek mythology right now next to like neurobiology.
That's actually a really good idea
to do.
I might have to look into like some of the psychology ones and stuff.
Oh yeah, no, there's some psychology on there.
That's awesome. Cool.
I can show you the world. Of course, Sarah.
Shining, shining, splendid.
Either way, so despite his teachers not having much respect for him or like really supporting him towards math and science, at age 16, he encountered Albert Einstein's work. Not only did he grasp it at 16, right? But it's possible that he managed to deduce Einstein's questioning of Newton's laws of motion from a text where it was never made explicit. So that's just like, I don't know. I was smart at 16, but I was not this smart at 16.
That's
so we're just seeing more and more glimpses of how he is skilled far beyond the average guy.
And I think that really plays into because Albert Einstein is also thought to have been autistic savant syndrome.
Right.
And so like it kind of like it's funny because like I feel like there's some certain categories of like autistic people. Obviously we're all very different, but there's like certain ones where you can see like the science people, like even though they might not know each other, they might not agree all the time, like you can see they're like their brains can sometimes their brains can sometimes work the same, and it like so I feel like a lot of times like for me reading like learning from an autistic person, a lot of times I learn better because it makes more sense the way that it worked, like they say it.
That makes sense.
So
yeah. So this is technically a glimpse into his personal life. So forgive me for the sorting here, but I think it makes sense because it's in his childhood. So either way, while he was also at this school at Sherborne, Turing formed a significant friendship with Christopher Colin Morecambe, who's been described as Turing's first love. So here's where our first kind of tie-in to him being a pride person.
I mean, obviously this is a necessary piece of information.
Well, and that's why I feel like it's necessary to go ahead and tie that in early.
Yeah, like normally we don't care about relationship. Well, to a degree.
To a degree.
But like we don't really care about your first love unless it's super important.
Right. And this Christopher, he was very into math and science as well. They worked together on trying to solve things. Yeah, and their relationship provided inspiration to Turing's future endeavors, but was cut short because Morecambe died in 1930. Complications of bovine tuberculosis. He basically drank like spoiled milk or something. I don't know, something was wrong with the milk. I don't remember, but it had something to do with that, and it was like complications from that, because again, back then, things weren't necessarily the same
tuberculosis was the
standards.
was a shit show in
right.
general.
So his death obviously brought great sorrow to Turing, and he dealt with his grief by pushing that much harder on the topics of science and mathematics, the things that him and Christopher had been working on. One thing I didn't put it in here, but what I thought was really sweet is that he stayed in touch with the kid's mother for like years afterwards and would send letters like on his birthday and stuff like that. Yeah, so I thought that was really sweet. And see, it's important because again, we're building character, so we're understanding who Alan Turing was before he was like Alan Turing.
Yeah. The more I'm learning about it, the more I'm starting to agree with the idea of
we'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that. Don't spoil it.
The actor who plays him in the movie.
Oh, okay. I thought we were talking about the end, and I was like, no.
The more I'm feeling about the Bennett.
Okay.
Benjamin Cumberbatch playing him. Like, I just feel like he's the right person.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
I know.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, I will never say it right, ever, on purpose.
I mean, that's the same with me and Elon Musk. That's the only time I'm gonna say it right. It's right there.
Yeah.
To make sure it's clear. Anyways, okay, so after Turing graduated from Sherborne, he attended King's College, Cambridge, where he was awarded first-class honors in mathematics, of course, because that's what he took a natural inclination towards. And he did a dissertation that proved a version of the central limit theorem, which is a part of probability theory. I was going to define all of that for you guys, and I got lost. So he did a big thing. He proved something. I know proving theories is very important.
Yes.
Because it basically answers a question.
And I think the probability theory is important.
Yeah.
I feel like I know more information than my brain is letting me think about right now.
That's okay. We can just keep trucking.
Okay.
In 1937, he finished his master's course while also publishing his first paper, which was a one-page article called Equivalence of Left and Right Almost Periodicity. Again, I can't tell you what it means. I just know he's doing shit, right?
Yeah.
He was then elected a fellow of King's College on the strength of his dissertation, where he served as a lecturer.
I am curious, like, how much of a shut-in he was when he was doing all this, because I would have to be a total shut-in.
Right. I have no idea. It didn't really touch on his social life much. Like,
of course not.
Yeah.
My social life would be non-existent.
Yeah. So we're about to get into, like, the things that are still influential and relevant to today's life. I didn't put down a year for some reason, but I imagine it was after 1937, right? Chronological order.
Mm-hmm.
But he published a 36-page paper, and I'm going to do my best with this. So it's called On Computable Numbers with an Application to the Entscheidungs Problem. I did my best. I told you, I warned you. However, the important bit for me is that it's been called, and I quote, easily the most influential math paper in history, end quote. So in this, he proved that his universal computing machine, because again, there weren't computers back then, like as we know today, would be capable of performing any conceivable mathematical computation if it were representable as an algorithm. He went on to prove that there was no solution to the decision problem by first showing that the halting problem for Turing machines is undecidable. All right, so I'm going to break that down just a little bit there. So a Turing machine, it's now called a Turing machine because he created these automatic, where'd it go? Universal computing machines. There we go. The halting problem being undecidable. So the halting problem is the problem of determining whether a computer program will finish running or continue on forever. It's impossible to, like, it's undecidable. It's like the limit does not exist. You know, like you can't actually define it either way.
The limit does not exist. Sorry.
I'm trying to think of what word I want, but it's like it just doesn't. You cannot. Yeah. So he proved that you cannot. So the fact that you can prove an impossibility is breaks my brain a little bit. But either way.
Yeah.
So he proved it's undecidable. And here we go. A Turing machine is a simple, abstract computational device intended to help investigate the extent and limitations of what can be computed. Goodness, y'all. So these machines to this day, though, are a central object of study in the theory of computation. So that's cool. That's something that he made back in like before the 40s, like 1940s, is still being used today.
It was huge, right?
I think so. Yeah. It's a large like case that you open up and it's got all the.
I was wondering if it would be possible to make like a replica version of it for
the theme for the table.
For the table.
We'll talk about that.
Okay.
So check it. Yes, you guys. Okay, so moving on from that. Now, this is the part where this is what I knew about him. I knew what a Turing test was, which we'll talk about that, but I knew about this part. So I'm just gotta say, like, I only knew this one thing. So hopefully this will start like ringing true to you guys and you're like, oh my God, I know exactly. Okay, now I know who that is. So from 1936 to 1938, Turing spent most of his time studying at Princeton University, where he studied cryptology. So now he's getting into cryptology, okay? He built 3 of 4 stages of an electromechanical binary multiplier. Again, I can't tell you what that means. He achieved his PhD in 1938 from Princeton in the departments of mathematics. His dissertation was called The Systems of Logic Based on Ordinals, which introduced the concept of ordinal logic and the notion of relative computing. Again, I'm not a mathematician, but he is introducing new theories and new ideas into the math world just constantly.
Yeah, I don't understand what half of it is, but it all sounds very impressive.
So in 1938, he started working with the British code-breaking organization, the Government Code and Cipher School. So this is when he concentrated on the cryptanalysis of the Enigma cipher machine used by Nazi Germany with fellow cryptographer Dilly Knox. So they developed an approach using crib-based decryption via I'm assuming it's pronounced bomb, but it's B-O-M-B-E. So it's not an actual boom bomb. It's a different device. It is an electromechanical device. So this is the piece that I was like, okay, I know him. He was called the code breaker because he was able to decode the code the Nazis were using, which was like a super important piece of winning the war, if I remember correctly.
No, I think you might put it in here, but I think my understanding was it basically shaved like 2 years off of the war.
Yeah, because it meant that we could all of a sudden, we knew what they were planning, we knew what they were saying, what their communications were, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's huge.
And he did a lot about it. So developing this bomb, quote, again, not boom bomb, the device bomb, is one of the 5 major cryptanalytical advances he made during the war. So he also deduced the indicator procedure used by the German Navy. He developed a statistical procedure called Banburismus, best guess, for making the use of these devices, more efficient. He developed a procedure called Turingery for working out the cam settings of the wheels of the Lorenz cipher machine, which I looked that up. That's the rotor stream machine that Germans used. So he was able to figure out how their machines worked, how to break the code, and he developed a portable secure voice scrambler code named Delilah. So something that would then scramble audio messages.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
I just love that it's named Delilah.
Delilah, right? So he did a lot. And during this time, he also wrote papers. Amongst all of this, he wrote 2 papers discussing mathematical approaches, one being the applications of probability to cryptography, and one being paper on statistics of repetitions. Those papers did not get released to the UK National Archives until 2012. They were top secret classified until 2012, and he wrote these bitches back in 1940 something.
That's amazing.
So that means they were that relevant for that long and used in post-war efforts and cryptanalysis.
That's amazing.
So, go ahead.
I just keep thinking about like if I was to get this much shit done,
yeah,
I would never leave my house. And if I didn't have like help, which I'm guessing he probably didn't.
No.
If I didn't have like help around the house, it would be a fucking disaster. Just like books piled everywhere, garbage pile, like just
like
it would all be in a pile, just
an
piled.
episode of Hoarders.
Yeah, it would look like an episode of Hoarders.
So here's some fun stuff about him. Some oh gosh, do I not know how to say that
eccentricities?
word? Eccentricities. There we go.
You just had a moment. That's all.
Some eccentricities recorded from his time in cryptanalysis include that his bicycle chain, like not bike, like motorbike, but bicycle chain, would come off at regular intervals, which of course is something that makes the bike not able to move, right? The chain's important to be on. Instead of having it fixed, he would count the number of times the pedals went around and would get off the bicycle in time to adjust the chain by hand.
Yep. That's autistic as shit.
I know. I found that piece. I was like, oh God, Stephanie's gonna love this.
Wow. Yeah.
He also chained his mug to the radiator pipes where he worked so it would not get stolen. Also during this time,
wait.
Go ahead.
Was it actually getting stolen? Or was he missing it?
I don't know.
Was he losing it?
It doesn't say. History will never know.
History will never know. What happened to the mugs?
So this time,
I'm just imagining some shelf somewhere just filled with mugs.
So all this cryptanalysis happened at Bletchley Park, which was a significant distance. I mean, not really in today's terms, but a significant distance from London. Okay, but still in the UK. During his time there, he occasionally ran the 40 miles to London when he was needed to meetings. He was capable of world-class marathon standards.
Damn.
He literally tried out for the Olympics and he unfortunately had an injury, so he didn't go any further with that.
Wow.
But honestly, from a kid who would bike 60 miles when he was 13, like, I'm not surprised. So he kept himself very like.
I wonder if he used exercise as a way to self-regulate.
You know what? I don't have it in here, but I do remember him saying that the stress of all of it, the only thing he could do was just exercise really hard.
He was self-regulating.
By running.
I wish it worked for me.
I ain't doing that.
I'm just like I could run like halfway down the block and I'd be throwing up.
Yeah.
Like that's where I'm at. Yeah. Hiking, I'm good.
Yeah.
But like moving fast, nope. I
like to always have a foot on the ground. So once I start trotting, then my feet are leaving the ground and I'm not cool with it.
Yeah, that's true.
Either way. All right. So moving on. So now we are past the war, right? From 1945 to 1947, he lived in Hampton, London, while he was working on the design of the Automatic Computing Engine, or ACE, at the National Physical Laboratory. So, during which he presented the first detailed design of a stored program computer.
Wow.
Which, it's literally what it sounds like, but that means, like, all of the computers we have are stored program computers because it has the operating system there. It's ready to go. That's why, like, you can turn on your computer. It's up in 5 seconds. Like, that wasn't a thing. Anyways, so he invented this, right? So while he was, he ended up going back to Cambridge for a sabbatical year where he produced a paper called Intelligent Machinery, which unfortunately was not published in his lifetime. And there was a pilot version of this ACE, this automatic computing machine, that was tested while he was alive, but a full version of it was not built until after his death. So he didn't even get to kind of see everything come to fruition, and obviously didn't see where everything's gone. We'll get to that. So in 1948, he was appointed reader at the mathematics department at the Victoria University of Manchester. And being appointed reader is just like you're a senior teacher
person. You're high up.
Professor. Yeah, you're high up. Okay. A year later, he became the deputy director of the Computing Machine Laboratory, where he worked on software for one of the earliest stored program computers, the Manchester Mark I. So not only did he introduce stored program computers, he started working on software that could then be on these stored program computers. He wrote the first version of the programmer's manual for this machine and also consulted with another company called Ferranti. My poor tired brain thought it was Ferrari when I was first researching. I was like, oh, Ferrari cars. But no, Ferranti, and the development of their commercialized machine, the Ferranti Mark I. So he's like consulting for companies, and he's high up in the university, and he's just
so maybe he did have help, paid help.
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe he had paid help to feed him and water
Make
him.
sure I eat. Water me occasionally, please.
Clean my house.
Right? So he continued to do more abstract work in mathematics and addressed the problem of artificial intelligence in the paper called Computing Machinery and Intelligence in 1950. So this is where he actually came up with and proposed the experiment that has since become called the Turing test, which is an attempt to define a standard for a machine to be called intelligent. It's quite it's not a black and white line, right? And it's like, how do you everyone says, oh, AI is going to be smarter than us and whatever, but like, how do you define when they are actually intelligent, when they're able to actually learn concepts and not just be able to meld together the information they've been given? So the idea was that a computer could be said to, quote, think if a human interrogator could not tell it apart from a human being through conversation. So that's kind of the line. So if a human can be talking to a machine, obviously I'm assuming he wouldn't know it was a machine.
Yeah.
He would just be in a room and the machine would be using a voice, because now voices are really easily replicable.
Mm-hmm.
And if they could not tell if it was a human being or a computer, then that machine is said to be intelligent.
Yeah.
Could
it also be talking about like even through text conversations?
I don't know about text, because I feel like that would be easier to fool. I don't know.
I feel like there's ways.
It just says through conversation.
Okay.
Human interrogator through conversation. So Turing also suggested that rather than building a program to simulate the adult mind, it would be better to produce a simpler one to simulate a child's mind and then subject it to a course of education. Because also then too, it's mimicking how we become educated as well.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And like a robot probably doesn't need as much time to learn it.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And also it's way more simpler to make the child's version.
Yeah.
And then just teach it instead of trying to figure out everything an adult would know. And yeah. So I think it's the more organic way, I guess.
Yeah.
So we see often a reversed form of this Turing test, and it's something that often frustrates me, and I'm sure frustrates you guys. The CAPTCHA test on the interwebs, right? When it's like, oh, type what you see, and it's like a really fuzzy group of numbers and letters, or oh,
I don't want to pick out the fucking bicycles anymore.
Like, click all bicycles or click all traffic lights or whatever. It's literally just to confirm that you're a human and not a robot or a computer, because they're trying to prevent like spam bots kind of thing. Yeah. But it's really frustrating when there's like a fraction of a bicycle wheel in the bottom right corner of one of them, and I'm like, does that count? Does that not? I don't know. So another cool thing, he ended up writing a chess program for a computer that did not yet exist. As in none existed that had enough power to run this program.
Oh, wow.
In 1950, that program was completed and dubbed the Turo Champ. So you know what he did, because there was no computer strong enough to run it? He went through the program page by page, and the game took hours or days or something, because he beat the computer, but it is said that the computer beat someone's wife. I don't remember whose, but yeah. He was like, well, there's no device that can run this, so let's just run it by hand. No big deal, NBD. So
autism.
we have a smidge more of his work life, because this is the last kind of field he explored that again still relates to math. When he was 39 years old in 1951, he turned to mathematical biology, and he published his masterpiece titled The Chemical Basis of Morphogenesis in 1952. Morphogenesis is the development of patterns and shapes in biological organisms. I'm trying to think of what, like how the lung ventricles branch.
Yeah.
He is basically suggesting that there's a system of chemicals reacting with each other and diffusing across space, termed a reaction diffusion system, that could account for the main phenomena of morphogenesis. So this is really cool. This work still remains relevant today and is considered of great importance in mathematical biology. It is suggested that his work can partially explain the growth of feathers, hair follicles, the branching patterns of the lungs, and even the left-right asymmetry that puts the heart on the left side of the chest. Partially, but still, it is suggested that it partially explains, but still.
That's amazing.
That's huge, because it's huge that math is involved with that. A study in 2023 confirmed his mathematical model hypothesis by growing chia seeds in accordance to his equations, resulting in patterns resembling those seen in natural environments.
Holy shit.
So he's a cool dude.
That's amazing.
It's smart motherfucker.
Wish I could see inside his brain.
Well, it's anyways, I was just gonna go a little morbid for a second. I don't need to do that.
But like, could you imagine what it was like inside of his brain?
Probably chaotic. Well, outside of my understanding.
Like, that's just amazing.
So that are essentially like his accomplishments all rolled up into one, and kind of childhood through adult life, because of course when we get to the next section we'll find out what happened and we'll talk about his personal life a little bit more. So let's go ahead and take a break, and we'll listen to a message from one of our sponsors. And we're back. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We're back. So let's go ahead and talk about Alan Turing's kind of personal life, other events that happened. We already talked about how he had his first love back when he was in school, like in his mid-teens. Nothing else was really reported or recorded, I should say, until 1941, where he proposed to Joan Clark, a fellow mathematician and cryptanalyst. Geez. Their engagement was short-lived, however, because he admitted his homosexuality to her, and while she was unfazed, Turing decided not to go through with the marriage.
Aw.
Yeah. So good job, Joan.
Aw, she was gonna be his what do they call it?
I don't know, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His women, his wife, his pretend wife.
Well, I mean, legally real, but I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
God, there's a name for it too.
So here's where things start getting sticky for him here. In 1952, he started a relationship with Arnold Murray, which was a 19-year-old man, and he was 39 at the time. So as much as we love Alan Turing, that's just gross to me.
Yeah.
That's a 20-year gap, and he's young. He's like young, but either way, doesn't matter. While they were
I will give him, he probably was going through some shit mentally with being homosexual in that time.
Well, yeah, because that's what I found out. It was very not.
So, like, it might have been that this 19-year-old happened to be a little bit of a safe space, and that's what happened, and that's what it was. Like, he could be himself, kind of thing.
Right.
Not that it's okay.
I'm not going to excuse him, but I see where you're coming from.
But I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
So it doesn't matter.
And hope he is very long.
While they were dating, Turing's house got burgled, and it turns out it was one of Murray's acquaintances. So he reported it to the police, and that was his kind of undoing there, because during the investigation, he acknowledged a sexual relationship with Murray. And unfortunately, at the time, homosexual acts were criminal offenses in the United Kingdom.
We just talk about how England is just the fucking worst.
I mean, they're not anymore. And we also were like that too.
They're still pretty bad, but
it's not illegal to be gay.
I know, but anyway. They like, in general, they've been kind of like the worst.
I mean, they did try to colonize the entire
everywhere.
Anyways, this is not a podcast to bitch about Britain. I'm
glad they at least started taking showers.
It's not like we popped out of the womb like as American. Anyways, that's another episode. Both men were charged with gross indecency. Convinced by his brother and his own solicitor, Turing pleaded guilty. He was given a choice between basically jail or probation. However, probation came with the condition of undergoing hormonal physical changes designed to reduce libido, aka chemical castration. It involved injections of a synthetic estrogen, and it lasted about a year for him. He did it for a year. It did cause impotency or erectile dysfunction and breast tissue formation.
Ugh. Why do we fuck with hormones? That's exhausting. Like when you don't need to. But also, if
he was trans and wanted to get estrogen to help him transition,
they wouldn't have given it to him.
They wouldn't have given it to him.
Fucking assholes. Yeah, just so like we are still like we don't know enough about hormones. Like obviously trans people, like they need to do their thing, and I think they go into it knowing that there's risks, and that's
but thinking that this is gonna make him not gay.
Yeah. Like why?
It make sense. I am literally that like boomer lady with the calculations flying around her head right now, like.
And like but like outside of like people who need it, like we need to leave the fucking hormones alone. That's why so many people have health, like there's so many people that have health issues now, like chronic health conditions, because back in the fucking 90s and early 2000s, they were just shoving birth control down our goddamn throats from the moment we started our periods.
Right.
I'm still recovering from being forced onto birth control at 14 years old.
Yeah.
Like, stop fucking with hormones, people.
Right.
Unless you need it.
Well, yeah, unless it's something you want.
And if you need it, go to someone who knows as much about it as possible.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure they know everything.
Right.
Don't go to the government. Please don't go to the government.
You heard it here first, folks. Don't go to the government for your birth control. Well, they don't want to give it to us anyway.
That is true.
Anyways, that's a different topic. So of course, I mean, I feel like I would have chosen the same thing over going to jail, to be completely honest with you.
But because think about what this did to him. Outside of what you already said, like you said he had breast tissue formation, which especially for him, probably being a very fit man, was
it was probably really frustrating to grow
just
literal adipose tissue on his chest.
Yeah. And then like he's like with the added estrogen, he's probably extra fucking like emotional,
dysregulated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just, like, I imagine like if he was probably a hot fucking mess on that shit, because it not only was it like causing these other like these like more
outward.
Yeah,
changes.
but like it's also fucking with your brain, and like
Right.
I'm sure, you know, like if you had, you know, the male version of me and the female version of me, and we switched brains, there'd be a lot of issues going on. Like hormones can really fuck with you.
Yeah.
And
So,
especially being it can really fucking dysregulate you.
Yeah. So, not only did all of that happen, but to add salt to the wound, his conviction led to the removal of his security clearance and barred him from continuing with his cryptographic consultancy for the government communications headquarters. So let me put that another way. This man broke the fucking enigma used by the Nazi Germans and
saved millions of people.
Right.
By ending the war 2 years early.
Because he's gay, he is now barred from ever going there again. He was able to keep his academic job at least, but he tried to come to the United States and was denied entry based on his conviction. During this time, he did start consulting with a psychiatrist, Dr. Franz Greenbaum. So if he started the relationship in 52, I imagine he was done with hormones by like 53, somewhere in 1953, because now we are getting into the sad part, which is, I'm just gonna lay it on you guys. So he was found dead in his house by his housekeeper.
So he did have help.
He had a housekeeper.
Sorry.
On June 8th of 1954, and it was determined he died the previous day. So that means that, yes, this day, June 7th, is the anniversary and the 70th anniversary of Alan Turing's death. We did not plan this way at all, by the way.
It just solidified the fact that we needed to do it.
Right. So yeah, so today, June 7th, 2024, 70th anniversary of his death. He died of cyanide poisoning at the age of 41.
Question. I never got to find out, did they test him for cyanide?
Yeah, they did, and that's how they found out he died the previous day as well. They did an autopsy on him.
Okay.
And they found like deadly lethal levels of cyanide in his organs.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of issues with this. I'm going to tell you what is generally accepted. And I'm very loose on the general term here. So it's widely accepted as suicide, as he was found with a half-eaten apple. He was neatly in his bed with the apple kind of had like he had fallen onto his bed and the apple kind of rolled out of his hand, that sort of image. It was also very well known that his favorite fairy tale was Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and that he particularly enjoyed the scene of the witch, you know, that the hag witch putting the apple in the poison and giving it to Snow White to poison her. So with that being said, that was a very much like, oh, it has to have been suicide. He was replicating this event. However, it's been analyzed by several to still be an open verdict because it was so poorly handled, his investigation, that the exact circumstances will literally never be able to be known. The apple, for starters, was never tested for cyanide. And it also...
It must have been the apple.
Well, he also was known to eat an apple every night. Like, at bedtime. Like, that was one of his things, was to eat an apple every day. You know, he heard the apple a day. Anyways. So, on top of that, in his house, he also had a spare room where he did experiments, right? And one of these things that he did was electroplating gold spoons, which happens to use potassium cyanide. So it's possible his death was an accident. So some people do argue it was an accident because the way the levels were, it wasn't just cyanide like in his digestive system. They found cyanide in all of his organs, which is more consistent with inhalation. Inhalation is a much slower death than digestion. But there are people that say, oh, it can't be that because he was found neatly in his bed. He didn't look like a man who was dying of suffocation. But I raise to you, if it kills you in a way via inhalation where you lose consciousness and then die. You're not going to necessarily be flailing around because you can't breathe.
That's true.
So that
But,
way,
like,
that could have meant if
he got to that unconscious point, like, did he not have symptoms leading up to that?
I imagine he would have had to.
Maybe that's why
maybe
he was
just feeling like super tired and woozy and was like, oh, let me eat my apple before I go to bed.
Yeah.
And then he slips into unconsciousness, falls back on the bed, the apple rolls out of his hand. So there's a hypothesis about this, though, that Turing arranged this to make the cause of death ambiguous to protect his mother from knowing that he took his own life. Because his mom does not, like, I can't remember if she's actually still around, but as long as she was alive, she never accepted it as suicide.
Yeah.
So there,
I think we should listen to mom. Moms always know.
But, like, also too, it was recorded that he wasn't very careful with things and had been known to taste chemicals to identify them. So there's just a lot going on.
Wouldn't he had to have a lot of cyanide in order, like, taste tested a lot of cyanide?
I don't know what the deadly level, like the lethal level is. There's other things, people saying he seemed happier than ever before, though that is that is a supporter of suicide, though, because one of the warning signs is if they're, like, sad and depressed and whatever, and then all of a sudden are super happy, it can mean that they've decided to go through with it, so they're happy. However, he had made, like, a to-do list for the next week when he was back in the office. I didn't put this in here. I'm going to mention it, but I don't know if the source was ever validated, but someone did say he went to a fortune teller. And he went in all cheery and he came out looking like he had seen a ghost. And that happened, like, very soon before this as well.
And he never mentioned it to anybody?
Well, it came from, I guess, whoever was with him, like, witnessed that happen. And we have no idea what he said, what the fortune teller said.
Interesting.
But the thing is,
track down the fortune teller.
It's all a whole bunch of speculation at this point because it's so unclear and there's no way to know because, like, it doesn't even rule out murder. Murder because he was a threat. Think about it. He knew the inner workings of cryptanalysis and he knew all of this stuff and had a top secret security clearance, and now he's gay.
Yeah.
So there's also some speculations that he was murdered. How? I don't know, because again, the autopsy was more consistent with inhalation.
But that could have been also done on purpose.
Right. Like, but there's no,
the investigation sucked.
It's like the worst murder mystery because as far as I can fathom, there is no way to know. None.
Yeah.
Because, like, even if we could track down that fucking apple, I'm sure it rotted by now.
Oh yeah.
Like, there's none. No way to tell.
Yeah.
Unless he, like, freaking comes back from the dead and tells us, like, nothing's happening.
Yeah. I just feel like you need fairly high levels of cyanide, and, like, I just feel like the whole, like, him taste testing it thing.
Right.
I feel like that.
But would half an apple of cyanide be enough?
I don't know. So the only real anything I know about
out of this.
So cyanide, only thing I know about cyanide really is that elderberries have cyanide when they're fresh on the bush.
Oh God, I'm never touching them again.
It is a small amount inside. I have eaten them fresh. Not a lot of them, but I have eaten a couple of them fresh because I didn't know this at the time.
Oh God.
And when I had them, I did notice, it, like, made my tongue feel kind of, like, tingly.
Oh.
But other than that, I didn't notice.
You're like, ooh, spicy berry.
Yeah, spicy berry. And then I looked it up and I found out that it was because there's cyanide in them. And you have to heat them to a certain temperature in order for them to
not
kill you. So
because, like, people have elderberry syrup and gummies and elderberry.
Yeah, elderberry is great. You just got to make sure if you buy it from somewhere, like then if you buy it from, like, a store, it's fine.
Yeah.
But if you're buying it from someone, make sure they
Process
know
it correctly.
Because like, yeah, if you don't heat it to a certain temperature, the cyanide won't burn off.
Oh.
If you heat it to a certain temperature, the cyanide burns off and it's fine.
Okay. I got you. Like cooking off alcohol.
Yeah.
Either way. So I'm really curious to know what your thoughts are. I feel like we've gone through that. That's been good. I'm actually, this last bit, I'm gonna talk about that on the last piece because it's kind of future-esque.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and let's ponder the circumstances around his mysterious death, and let's take a minute and listen to a message from one of our sponsors.
Mute myself.
And we're back.
Hello.
That was extra pizzazz for Nicole. Or anyone watching on YouTube. So we covered his works, we covered his achievements, his schooling,
How amazing he is.
personal issues, his mysterious death, all of these things.
I still vote murder.
So let's go ahead and talk about lasting effects into today's day and age, which we kind of talked about because I mentioned, this is still critical in mathematics, this is still critical in computation. So a lot of things there, but some other stuff. And then we can kind of maybe speculate what his life could have been like if he had been born, I don't know, 20 years ago instead of however many years ago. All right. So in 2009, of course, long after Turing is dead, British programmer John Graham Cumming started a petition urging the British government to apologize for his prosecution as a homosexual. There was a lot of back and forth on it was illegal back then, so he knew what he was doing, blah 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 blah. But then the lashback to that was it never should have been illegal in the first place. But either way, the Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, acknowledged the petition and released a statement the following month, apologizing and describing the treatment of Turing as appalling. Sorry, this is where the ups and downs happened. The ups and downs for the next 4 or 5 years, trying, not just Turing, but just anybody who was incarcerated or convicted or whatever for being gay. To revoke that, to renounce that, to whatever the word is.
Yeah.
So this effort finally resulted in the Queen, and yes, the Queen of England, officially pronouncing Turing as pardoned in 2014. He was the 4th individual since the end of the Second World War to get a pardon from the Queen.
Wow.
So that was cool.
Is that the same Queen who was Queen back when he, was prosecuted though?
Possibly. Let's see. England. Let's see. No, you autofilled my. There we go. What is cool? No. 52 to 2022.
Okay.
Ooh.
What?
But 52. Hold on. Was when he was in a relationship with Murray. So that might have been the very beginning of her reign because she started February 6th of 1952.
And when
but I don't have the exact date. I'm sure it's there. Either way, I'll look it up in just a second. So I want to continue with 2 years later, after Turing got his pardon, the government announced their intention to expand this retroactive exoneration to other men convicted of similar offenses, and it's now called the Alan Turing Law.
Aw.
Yeah, so he did make some change in many things. So what am I looking at? Let's see. So February 6th, 1952, Alan Turing convicted when? Is it just gonna say 1952? Excuse me, my goodness. It's just saying 1952. I don't know if I have an actual date.
So we'll say it was at the beginning of her reign.
Yeah. But also, was it her who sentenced him? Does the Queen of England sentence them, or do they
I don't know
have?
how that works.
It's like the president doesn't sentence people, but the presidents do grant pardons.
Yeah, I don't know. And she wouldn't have had enough time to change the law at that point.
Well, exactly. And if that's what the precedent was, and she's a brand new queen, and
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, no, that would probably have been an issue. He's also on the new 50. Was it?
I don't really know what the royals actually do, so
I don't know either. I think they're mostly like figureheads.
Yeah.
But no, he's on the new $50. It's not dollars, it's francs, I believe, or something.
Okay.
Sorry, my worldly knowledge is not fantastic. But he literally got put on a $50 bill. We'll just say $50 bill for sake of understanding. Because he provided the theoretical underpinnings for the modern computer, devised code-breaking machines that helped win the war, and stood for homosexuality. The father of computer science and artificial intelligence, as well as a war hero. So there's all of that.
I mean, despite the fact that he knew, I mean, that's the thing, is he did know that it was illegal.
Yeah.
And he stood up for himself.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, fucking assholes decided that it was not okay.
Right.
And ruined his life.
I will say a little blip about his death. Jack Copeland, who I don't know who Jack Copeland is, but he argues that the evidence used to declare the death of Turing would not be sufficient to close the case today.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now I need to find out who Jack Copeland is. I'm looking him up.
Okay. I don't know if he's a detective or...
I see Jack Green Copeland, a surgeon.
I'm going to look up Jack Copeland, Alan Turing, because that should pull. Maybe? Here we go. Professor of philosophy at the University of Canterbury.
Okay.
Potentially. Oh, he's the director of the Turing Archive for the History of Computing, an extensive online archive on the computing pioneer, Alan Turing. He's also written and edited books on Turing. Huh.
Wow. He's a Turing fan.
He is a Turing fan.
I mean, I agree. The evidence that they have, that I've heard of, is not enough.
Right.
I don't think any prosecutor would go ahead with that.
He's still alive. He's still alive.
Cool.
I mean, he was born like 3 years before Turing died, so they definitely never met. But either way, so let's speculate. What would his life have been like if he was not born when he was? Like, it makes me upset to think about it, actually, because then I'm like, huh.
Well, his life would be a hell of a lot better.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's the thing. If he was born in, like, let's say 1990.
Yeah.
His life, or even 2000. There's a lot of things that could have been a lot better. But if you think about it, like, if he was born then, does that mean that he wasn't born when he was originally born? And all of his...
Oh God, now we're just breaking brains here. Yes, so then we have to decide, does that mean that he never broke the code and we all speak German now? Like...
Yeah, so his life could have ended up still being terrible.
Okay, so let us imagine he was born 100 years later, so we'll say in 2012, all right? And somebody else did all of the things, so history still went exactly the way it went. Okay. He would not have been arrested and chemically castrated for having a boyfriend.
No.
That's the thing that pisses me off.
I would hope to see him at a pride with his boyfriend or husband. Husband and 2 kids. I could see him with like, husband and 2 kids, like just being all cute. That's what I want for him.
Yeah.
Because he's amazing. Though I want his husband to be about the same age as him.
Yeah, I don't want the 20-year gap.
Yeah.
I don't care if they're like 60 and 40, but that was a 19-year-old. So I wish that wasn't the case. But
we'll give him benefit of the doubt. There are things that could have happened. You never know. But yeah, I would like his husband to be about the same age as him.
So go ahead and take us down the rabbit hole, because apparently there's a viral video going around that I haven't seen yet that they've used AI to bring him back. Like, and he's literally the guy who is the father of AI, like
all of his computing.
AI.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have an issue with it. Like, there's controversy about it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and I get it.
Did
so
he
like
foresee this?
I do kind of wonder. So for anybody who doesn't know, there's some of the controversy with AI. One, AI takes from the internet to learn, which in a way we do too. So you kind of see it that way. They don't
necessarily learn, they compile. I'm specifically talking about art though.
Yes. But and I don't agree with using it to replicate art.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like I actually had this conversation with Joe. Like, if it's one thing to replicate art, try to make money off of it that way, especially lying about it. But like, for instance, I use Bing Image Creator to do visual pictures of my D&D character, like all of the characters, like all the ones that I'm so that they have a visual image.
Right.
I wouldn't pay an artist to do that. No. I don't have that kind of money, and I am not an artist, but I can give them that with that tool.
Right.
So like, I think the problem is there's an ethics issue, and there's a lot, like, you know, one person's ethics is different than another, and like, you can use it as like a tool,
right,
or accommodation. I look at when I use AI for like even trying to find a theme for this thing, or I use it to help me like compile my thoughts together. Sometimes I just brain dump into it and it comes up with a thing. Like, I use it as an accommodation. I think of that as an accommodation. I can do it. It would take me fucking days to do the things. I also
think that you have the sense to look at it rationally too.
Yeah.
Because I have also seen, well, I didn't see the first thing. So I have seen, I'm sure you guys have seen too, where it talks about like people asking AI, like, can you run over the edge of a cliff and keep going if you don't look down? And the problem is AI is telling people, yes, you can. They're saying, yes, you can put cockroaches in the tip of your penis. Like, it's saying, yes, put gasoline in your soup, because it's fine. It's
okay. That's just fucking Darwinism at this point. If you're putting gasoline in your soup, and why are you listening to AI for that shit?
I know. But the thing is it sounds ridiculous right now, but the things that could be wrong that aren't as glaringly wrong, you know? I see it, well, some of my family members already share everything they see without validating sources, but now it's going to be even harder.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm worried about. That's my big concern.
And
because there's a lot of people like my parents.
I think your concern is valid, but also everyone is going to, like, every new thing, like every technology, there's going to be bad sides. Like, and that's with everything. I mean, even like government stuff, like they have these programs that are helpful to, you know, all these people, but then there's a few people who fuck it up.
Yeah.
You know, there's always going to be shitty people in the world.
Yeah.
Who do shitty things.
We just have a lot of dumb people that are
yeah,
not gonna,
or dumb people, and that's on them. And
well, when it affects our entire life, because then they vote based on that. That's my big thing. But it doesn't matter. We don't have to argue about it.
Yeah. But yeah, there is that controversy of that. Again, I think it's more of a good thing than a bad thing. So yeah. I like AI. And finding out that he's the father of AI while using AI to come up with a theme was pretty hilarious.
The AI was like, watch this, guys.
Yeah. But, you know, to think about the fact that this man who lived so long ago, and I mean, he did a lot of things in his short life.
41 fucking
and
years,
those things are still like his work is making my life better.
Yeah.
Still. Like,
well, like the beginning, because he didn't make AI as it is today, but like
what he started, yeah. His work, like, started what now is making my life better. Yeah. Like, yeah, there's been, you know, other people built onto his work, but like he had to start it. Right. And that's amazing. And I think he helps a lot of people out in even still nowadays. Probably a lot of neurodivergent people who need AI or use AI as a accommodation. Right. So I think that's really cool. Sorry, your dog was just scratching her face and she made a weird face in the process.
Breaking news. My dog is cute. Breaking news. And it's not even the cute one.
Not the sweet baby angel Duke.
The perfect baby angel boy. Who is currently hidden in bed. Where's your dog?
By my feet.
He's under your chair. Yep. All right. You got a dog down there.
So yeah, do you have anything else to talk about?
I mean, that's Alan Turing in a nutshell.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a pretty thorough workup.
If anybody has ideas for my booth to, you know, theme it for Alan Turing, that'd be great. Trying to come up with some ideas.
Thankfully, this isn't like 2 weeks away.
No.
We have like a month and a half.
It's on June 6th. So we have a month and...
It is not June 6th.
Oh, maybe last year it was June.
I was going to say June 6th is Aurora
July 6th.
Pride. Oh, okay. So we have about a month.
I think, hold on. Let me double check that now. July 6th.
July 6th. Okay, so we have about a month.
So
less
time we got some time, but we can make it work. Very excited. If you guys are in the area, you should come see us.
Yes.
Kenosha Pride.
Kenosha is southeastern Wisconsin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You've probably heard about us on the news. Not for good things.
Yikes. Yikes on bikes.
But yeah, I think were we going to talk about it on the live next week?
The movie?
Yes, we're going to talk about the movie. We're going to watch the movie so we can talk about the live.
Yeah, so it'll be on our next live.
Yes. Huh?
What about that other lady?
Oh,
that'll be another episode.
Yeah.
Also, if there's someone who's a neurodivergent person in history that you want a deep dive done on, feel free to tell us that too.
Yeah, because...
Or if you find an article and you're like, oh, this is really cool, because I still want to do that sub-series of deep diving article analyses.
Yeah, we should actually have like little featured posts that say like, if you have an article and if you have a person.
And because then I can add to it the links of the episodes as they come out and then the comments and
I like it.
Oh goodness, you guys. All right, let's talk about that on our live tomorrow. That for you guys is yesterday. So
Yeah.
Oh, well, no, because then I'm gonna give away what it is. What our new, okay, that's okay. We won't. We shan't.
We shan't. We shan't.
We shan't.
Shan't.
Yes, because, okay. Because it's we should not, but instead of saying I am not, it's I ain't. So then it's melding should and ain't. So I shan't.
Shan't.
I love it. It's such bad English. It's not like
shan't.
But it sounds very hoity-toity, even though it's not, because it's like a bastardization of English, so it's not normally considered hoity-toity. But when I say I shan't, it just, or it's a,
or someone might mishear you and think you said I shan't.
Or it is a conglomeration of shall not. It could also be that.
Yeah.
Either way.
Cool.
All done. Okay. We'll see you guys later.
Goodbye.
Bye.